Welcome back to our online class. In this class, we are going to discuss modern English literature. In the first part, we can look into literary movements. First, let us have a glance to modernism. Modernist literature has its beginning in the late 19th and early 20th century Europe and America. Modernism was a revolt against the conservative values of realism. Arguably, the most paradigmatic motive of modernism is the rejection of tradition and its reprise, incorporation, rewriting, recapitalization, revision, and parody in new forms. Ezra Pound's maxim to make it new is a tag word of modernism. It rejected the lingering certainty of Enlightenment thinking and also rejected the existence of a compassionate and the concept of all powerful creator God. It is an intellectual and artistic movement that developed in conjunction with and eventually in opposition to fully developed modernity. Modernist artists and intellectuals were disgusted with the banality and dehumanized quality of life in industrial capitalism. They responded to this regradation of the quality of life by retreating into a nostalgia for pre capitalist organic social order, by embracing fascist leaders and ideologies, by seeking refuge in radical and sometimes anti-social individualism or agrarian populism. High modernist art often features fragmentation and disruption at the level of form, though it generally attempts to recuperate a sense of order and faith in universal values at the level of content or overall effect. In this way, the modernist attempted to shore up, that is, invoking Eliot's phrase from The Wasteland, the grand narratives, the absolute truth and values of the Western tradition. Modern British literature is the literature of 20th century. Many events contributed to the concept of modern which are given below. First one, Charles Darwin and his book Origin of Species published in 1859. It brought out a new world outlook, especially among religious communities. Second one, emergence of socialism and later communism by the advent of Karl Marx by his book Das Kapital. Third one, appearance of Sigmund Freud and the psychoanalysis theory influenced the age a lot. Fourth one, Albert Einstein's theory of relativity combined with quantum theory. Fifth one, World War I. All these events dramatically influenced the 20th century and the consequence is modernism. New trends emerged in all disciplines such as painting, music, arts, science and literature. Traditional tools and techniques and notions were rejected and new approaches and ideas are emerged. The boundary breaking art, literature, and music of the first decades of the century are the subject of the topic modernist experiment. Next, we can look into what is Impressionism. The term Impressionism comes from the school of mid 19th century French painting, which was in reaction to the academic style of the day. The name of the style derives from the title of a Claude Monet's work, Impression Sol 11, that means Impression Sunrise. Impressionist painting characteristics include relatively small, thin yet visible brushes strokes, open composition, emphasis on accurate depiction of light in its changing qualities, that means often accentuating the effect of the passage of time. Ordinary subjects matter, inclusion of movement as a crucial element of human perception and experience, and unusual visual angles. The literary use of the term Impressionism is far less precise. Many of the French symbolist poets have at one time or another been called Impressionist. The impressionistic techniques is apparently subjective. In the modern novel, impressionism frequently refers to the techniques of a centering in the mental life of the chief character rather than the reality around him. Writers such as Proust, Joyce, and Virginia Woolf dwell in their characters' memories, associations, and inner emotional reactions. Next, we can look into what is Imagism. Imagism, a movement in early 20th century Anglo-American poetry, was formulated in about 1912 by Ezra Pound in conjunction with fellow poets Hilda Doolittle, Richard Aldington, and F.S. Flynn, and was inspired by the critical views of T.E. Hum. It has been described as the most influential movement in English poetry since the activity of the pre-Raphaelites. The poets who followed the Imagist poetry movement were T.S. Eliot, E. Cummings, and Allen Ginsberg. Imagist poetry favored the precision of imagery and clear language. The Imagist rejected the sentiment and discursiveness typical of much romantic and Victorian poetry. This was in contrast to their contemporaries, the Georgian poets, who were by and large content to work within that tradition. Group publication of work under the Imagist name appearing between 1914 and 1917 featured writings by many of the most significant figures in modernist poetry in English, as well as a number of other modernist figures prominent in the fields other than poetry. Imagist publications appearing between 1914 and 1917 featured works by many of the most prominent modernist figures, both in poetry and in other fields. The Imagist group was centered in London, with members from Great Britain, Ireland, and United States. Somewhat unusually for the time, a number of women writers were major Imagist figures. Major features of the Imagism is that it makes use of language of common speech, but to employ the exact word, not the nearly exact, nor the merely decorative word. And the individuality of a poet may often be better expressed in free verse than in conventional forms. Another feature of Imagist poetry is that it relies on absolute freedom in the choice of subject. Imagists try to produce the poetry that is hard and clear, never blurred nor indefinite. Next topic is stream of consciousness. The phrase stream of consciousness refers to an uninterrupted and unhindered collection and occurrence of thoughts and ideas in the conscious mind. In literature, the phrase refers to the flow of these thoughts with reference to a particular character's thinking process. It is first used by William James in Principles of Psychology. It is one of the major techniques used in the 20th century novelists such as Dorothy Richardson, James Joyce, and Virginia Woolf. This type of writing is also called subjective novel or psychological novel. Stream of consciousness is a method of narrative representation of random thoughts which follow in a freely flowing style. Some writers attempted to capture the total flow of the character's consciousness rather than limit themselves to rational thoughts. To represent the full richness, speed, and subtlety of the mind at work, the writer incorporates snatches of incoherent thought, ungrammatical constructions, and free association of ideas, images, and words at the pre speech level, or his or her sensory reaction to external occurrences. The stream of consciousness novel commonly uses the narrative techniques of interior monologue. Probably the most famous example is James Joyce's Ulysses, that is in 1922, a complex evocation of the inner states of the characters Leopard and Molly Bloom and Stephen Dedalus. Virginia Woolf's The Wolves, that is in 1931, a complex novel in which six characters recount their lives from childhood to old age. Toni Morrison also used the stream of consciousness technique of writing in many of her novels depicting the life of African American women, such as Beloved, that is in 1987. Next topic is movement poetry. We can look what is movement poetry. Movement poetry is a kind of poetry which was written by a few poets during the 1950s and that found to be very different from the modernist poetry written in 1930s and 1940s. The movement is a title first used to the anthology of poets such as Kingsley Amis, John Wayne, Elizabeth Jennings, Tom Gunn, Donald Davy, and D.J. Enright that published in 1950s. Soon after, another anthology called New Lines, containing the work of the same poets, appeared, and in it a number of poems by Larkin were also included. In the introduction to this anthology, its editor, that is Robert Conquest, wrote that these poems of the 1950s were vastly different from the poems which had been written in the preceding 2 decades. The new poetry, he wrote, did not submit to any great systems of theoretical constructs or to any agglomerations of unconscious commands. This new poetry was free from both mystical and logical compulsions and was empirical in its attitude to all things. Actually, the poets of the movement were not an organized group with any well defined and deliberately formulated aims shared by them all. The poetry of each member of this group differed in several ways from the poetry of every other member. All the same, there were certain features which were identified by critics as being common to the poetry of most of the members of this group. Questioned on this point, Larkin said that the members of this group did not have any artistic aims in common, but that they agreed in general in things which they found funny or derisible. Larkin did not give any clear definition of the poetry of the movement, though he did agree that certain features were common to the work of all the poets of this group. Talking about his own poetry, he emphasized the expository, documentary, empirical, and rational elements in his poems, and these qualities were evident in the work of other members of the group also. Poetry of the movement aims at stark realism. It is rational, empirical, and argumentative. It employs traditional syntax using ordinary diction, and it is most often colloquial in style. The symbolist or Yeatsian poetry, on the other hand, aims at transcendental effect. It employs symbols which tend to make it difficult to understand. It is most often vague in its meaning and it therefore mystifies the reader. It is highly elusive. It is very learned and demands from the reader a high degree of intelligence and vast knowledge. It is generally tends to obscurity. The poetry of the movement seeks to establish a direct relationship between the poet and his audience, and that is why it deals with ordinary and common themes in an ordinary and plain style. The symbolist or modernist poetry, on the other hand, appeals to the elite among the intelligentsia, thus losing touch with the common people. And it so happens that most of Larkin's poems represent the aims of the movement, and that some of his poems represent the symbolist or the modernist mode of writing. Both sides can claim him for their own. And this is the reason why his work may be regarded as representing the movement's poetic scene as one of the temperate zone. This is all about our today's session. I hope all of you can understand our class well. Please subscribe, like our class, and thank you all.